also led the funeral service for Bullock's predecessor, Bishop Peter Mewich, who died of cancer in February. Bullock was named by Pope Francis to succeed Bishop Peter in late June, and at his ordination mass was welcomed by the Pope's representative in the United States.
I am happy for the people of the Diocese of Rapid City, and I look forward to the journey that you and your people will take together. You and the people of this diocese are ready to do what your episcopal motto says: rise and be on your way, carrying on the work of the gospel. In all of this, may the Virgin Mary continue to be your companion and guide.
Following his ordination, Bishop Bullock said Mass for the gathered congregation. He was most recently the pastor of St. Edward Parish in Waterloo, Iowa. He was first ordained a priest in 1991. In his spare time, he is an avid long-distance cyclist and, in his words, a student of world cinema. Let's turn now to a student of meteorology, Brant Beckman, because he went to school for it, and it's hot out there. It's going to be hot.
The learning never stops. You're always a student of meteorology.
Yeah, that's true.
No matter your age. You're always learning something. Deadwood, here we go. We are looking at some fairly nice conditions for this evening. Looking at 57 degrees, west-northwest winds about 5 to 10 miles per hour, relative humidity 44%. We had some showers. Those are now pushing off towards the east. We're looking at mostly dry conditions, just bugs, dust, other things being picked up on the radar this evening. Same thing out towards Billings and the Bighorns. We are looking at fairly decent temperatures tonight, looking at 50s and 60s. I think some of those get down to the 40s this evening, particularly in northeastern Wyoming. As far as the winds are concerned, a little bit of a west-northwest wind. Those winds are going to pick up as we get towards tomorrow. So we're going to be seeing those again tomorrow. Then once we get to about Wednesday, we're going to see a switch out of these winds here, and we're actually going to see a pattern shift again. We've seen several over the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 days. We're going to see another one as we get to later on this week. And one of the factors we're going to be looking at closely, relative humidity. Now, for tonight, it looks pretty good, looking at those 40s and 50s and even some 60s up towards Lemon and towards the North Dakota border. But we're going to be talking about what later this week looks like and sneak peek at the long-range forecast for October. Eric.
All right, Brant. As of tomorrow, only 6 weeks left until Election Day, November 5th. But you don't have to wait to vote. In-person absentee voting in South Dakota is now underway. And as NewsCenter1's Aaron Feitz shows us, some 500 people were already voting today in Pennington County.
Friday was the official start of absentee voting, but due to the Pennington County Administration buildings being closed on Fridays, they started in-person voting on Monday. But they did send out 5,500 ballots on Friday. Cindy Mueller, the Pennington County Auditor, says that voters should know before you go when going out to vote.
Just make sure you go out to the Secretary of State's website, go to that voter information portal. You can type in your name, you can check your registration, you can see the address you're registered at to see if you need to get that changed.
October 21st is the deadline for registering to vote. Any changes to your address or anything else that needs to be made by then. If you are unsure if you are registered, you can check the Secretary of State's website.
And it's just a very useful site. You can know before you go. You can see what you're going to be voting on. There's also information out there on all the ballot questions. There's a lot of things. I'm afraid that a lot of people are going to get there and then look at that and be a little bit overwhelmed and maybe not take time to vote on things that are important to them.
Beyond being prepared by knowing what's on your ballot, Mueller says you need to check where your polling location is.
Look at the construction around town, know if that's around one of your polling locations, because it's really hard for us to just up and move a polling place just because the street's being reconstructed. You might have to find an alternate way.
So a reminder that the voter registration deadline is on October 21st in South Dakota. We've got more information and a link to the voter information portal on our website at nc1.tv/elections. In Rapid City, Aaron Feitz, NewsCenter1.
Republicans in Nebraska are conceding defeat tonight in their push to change how the state counts its electoral votes. The change was seen as a way to help Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris. A key Republican in the state legislature, however, announced that he would oppose a change at this point in the election cycle. A change would have more than likely given Donald Trump all 5 of the state's electoral votes, instead of allowing 1 to go to Harris based on how votes are split in Nebraska by congressional districts. Only Nebraska and Maine do not have a winner-take-all formula. World leaders are descending on the United Nations in New York this week with several raging conflicts, stressed alliances, and a host of threats overseas. President Biden and whoever becomes the next president are up against a catalog of foreign crises.
President Joe Biden is traveling to New York this week for the United Nations General Assembly. He will address the delegates on Tuesday.
I think the president will challenge the United Nations by when we come together, we can solve world problems.
The president will meet with leaders to discuss a wide range of topics, including working to find diplomatic solutions to a number of crises.
We want to work to find peace. So we're putting all of our efforts behind peace and security, not just in Gaza and Israel and Lebanon, but we're also focusing on Sudan. We're focusing on Ukraine.
And as Biden remains busy with an intense stretch of diplomatic engagements, attention on the world stage is already shifting to Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump as leaders prepare for the future.
They're trying to measure out Vice President Harris's foreign policy views, which aren't all that well known at this point. And of course, what they do know about former President Trump, much of which has the traditional American allies deeply on edge.
According to multiple U.S. officials, representatives for Harris and Trump are fielding requests from dozens of countries reaching out to get FaceTime with the candidates. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
We have much more ahead for you tonight. A verdict in a Colorado supermarket mass murder. Violent crime numbers from the FBI that you may find surprising. And we have an update on the 8 that got away, the bulls that escaped from a rodeo, and the one that had not been captured in just a moment.
This is NewsCenter1 with Eric Green, Brant Beckman, and Justin Wickersham.
A man on trial for gunning down 10 people at a Colorado supermarket has been found guilty. Ahmad Alissa was found guilty on all 55 charges, including 10 counts of first-degree murder in connection to the mass shooting at the King Superstore in Boulder 3 years ago. Jurors were handed the case on Friday. They deliberated for only about 6 hours. Lawyers for the 25-year-old Alissa did not dispute that their client was the shooter, but he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. The defense argued that he could not distinguish between right and wrong when he opened fire. Alissa was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. The FBI says violent crime in the U.S. fell by 3% in 2023 from the previous year. The most dramatic drop was in the number of murders, down 12%, and that is the largest drop in decades. Of other crimes, rapes dropped by more than 9%. And reported hate crimes fell by less than 1%. However, the number of reported vehicle thefts up 13%. We have a follow-up right now from last night. An elusive bull, the one that was not captured after escaping from a rodeo yesterday, has now been caught tonight. 8 bulls escaped from the rodeo being held in the parking lot of a shopping center in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. 7 of them were caught in about 3 hours. 1 remained on the loose until this evening. It was seen not far away from the entrance to the Walmart at the shopping center, and then he led first responders and cowboys on a chase through some neighborhoods until they were able to get him corralled. No one was injured. Brandt's back in a moment with a steamy start to autumn and an update on peak fall colors when NewsCenter1 continues tonight. $15.
Weather with Chief Meteorologist Brant Beckman.
Let's take a look at the weather scoreboard from today. High temperature right around 80 degrees is about noon today. 40 degrees about 6 o'clock this morning. Average for this time of year about 73 and 44, so not too far off from those numbers. For the month of September, we're actually above normal. We got those thunderstorms that came through, a lot of lightning if you remember those storms. And it did bring some water to the area, but we're still 3 inches below normal for the year. We need a lot more to catch up to those numbers. Now we got some showers and thunderstorms, mostly just thunder showers that are pushing into the eastern part of the state. But if you're looking at the rest of the country here, we are seeing some thunderstorm activity down towards the Ohio River Valley, southern Illinois, a little action down in West Virginia, Ohio. And so far right now it's quiet along the Gulf Coast, but It's coming. You're going to start hearing about it. This potential hurricane that's going to be moving into Florida. At least National Hurricane Center believes it could be as high as a Category 3. That's a major hurricane status, going anywhere between about Panama City down to Tampa Bay. That area of Florida ought to pay attention. Southern Georgia ought to pay attention as well, as this thing will likely have enough speed and size. We'll just plow through and sustain those winds all the way to potentially northern Georgia. So something to keep in mind if you're planning on heading down there anytime between Wednesday and Saturday. It may be a mess. All right, we do have some flood warnings on the East Coast, but not much otherwise. Maybe some dense fog advisory, southwestern Missouri, southeastern Kansas, a little bit of action down in Arizona, but it's not very often you look at most of this map, you see almost nothing on it. Relatively quiet weather, high pressure is to thank for that. Let's go ahead into Tuesday afternoon. Not seeing a whole lot, plenty of clear skies, a little spotty shower activity along I-29, Sioux Falls, Sisseton area. Early Wednesday morning going into Wednesday afternoon, you'll struggle to see a cloud in the sky. One exception, the bighorns. There was a little something trying to kind of spin up out there, small cumulus clouds or high thin clouds coming over the tops there. And then as you get towards early Thursday morning, still looking at relatively warm and dry conditions. Temperatures going to tomorrow, going to be lots of 70s across the state, maybe a few lower 80s just east of the Black Hills. Early Wednesday morning, getting back down to those 40s and 50s, a little bit cooler. As you head towards Minnesota, could see some 40s, even some upper 30s out that direction. And then all of a sudden, we hit the ceiling here again as we head towards Wednesday. 80s and 90s in the forecast. And as we get into Thursday, those temperatures could be even higher, lower to mid-90s. Now, these winds out of the northwest, that's going to be sticking with us for tomorrow. Could have some gusts pushing 30, 35 miles per hour. But if you notice Wednesday, a little bit of a change here. Got these southerly winds. Now, it's not necessarily bringing in moisture. We're just seeing more heat and dry air coming out of the southwest. That'll be infiltrating the area. Let me show you. Relative humidity, measure of moisture that's being given and taken from the air, basically, that's able to condensate. And we're looking at Tuesday afternoon, not a whole lot being given out here, and it's even less as we get towards Wednesday afternoon. The environment is stealing moisture from you and me and the vegetation. And that causes fire conditions in northeastern Wyoming to start being elevated by Wednesday afternoon, and that could become more widespread in western South Dakota as we get towards Thursday. Now, the long range, so we finish out September going into October, it's above average, and it looks like that'll only build as we get into about the first week of October, seeing those 80s still in the forecast. And it's going to be on the drier side as well. 6 to 10 day forecast has those drier conditions. 2-week range settles in to the northern plains, so looking like a dry period of time here over at least the next 7 days, if not a little bit longer. Potential fire conditions Wednesday through Friday of this week. Temperatures start to cool off a little bit by early next week. Eric.
All right, Brad. Now, if you're a leaf peeper, take note of this. This coming weekend is expected to be peak fall foliage color in Spearfish Canyon. Kimberly Talcott tracks the changing leaves in the canyon, and she reports that as of today, the leaves are about 70% of the way toward peak color. Talcott says there's a lot of gold on the canyon walls around Bridal Veil Falls, but the sumac is just beginning to turn from green to red. The oaks are still mostly green. The key ingredient, she says, days that are getting shorter, especially now that we're past the autumnal equinox. While your home may start looking like a doctor's office during cold and flu season, when we come right back. Stocks starting the week in positive territory as traders look to build on last week's gains following the Federal Reserve's interest rate cut. The Dow finished the day up 61 points, closing at 42,124. S&P 500 closing at a fresh record, up 16 to 5718. The Nasdaq up about 26 to 17,974. COVID cases are on the rise. It's the new variant XCC, and it's all just ahead of the respiratory virus season. To get ready, the federal government is now making more at-home COVID tests available for free. Each household will be able to order a new round of 4 free at-home test kits. These new test kits will be available by the end of this month. The Department of Health reporting more than 900 million test kits have been delivered through the program. In the meantime, a new weapon against the flu has been approved by the FDA, the agency given the green light to an at-home version of the flu vaccine. And while it won't be available to help with this season, some experts hope not having to get a shot at a doctor's office or at a pharmacy will encourage more people to get protected.
It's a first in the fight against flu. On Friday, the FDA approved the first needle-free influenza vaccine that can be administered at home.
I think that's good news. I think the idea is to get people vaccinated and to get their immune system up.
Flu Mist is a nasal spray that's been used to protect against influenza in the U.S. since 2003. It's currently available with a prescription in pharmacies and other healthcare settings for people ages 2 to 49 who aren't pregnant. The manufacturer plans to make the vaccine available for self-administration through a third-party online pharmacy, which will prescribe and ship the vaccine after reviewing a screening and eligibility assessment. This option is expected to be available in time for the start of next year's respiratory virus season.
It's very simple. It's basically one spray each nostril to get the full dose for an adult.
Dr. Jesse Bracamonte with Cleveland Clinic says this approval will help make it more convenient to protect against flu, but he says the vaccine contains a live but weakened version of the virus, so it's not for everybody.
So there are certain conditions that are not able to take the flu mist, such as if you're on immune-related medications that suppress your immune system, you have HIV, and there's some particular immune-related issues that you'd have to talk to your physician or your clinician to make sure that that vaccine is right for you.
I'm Mandy Gaither.
Now, in the 2023-24 season, the CDC estimates that there were at least 35 million flu-related illnesses, and among them 400,000 hospitalizations and 25,000 deaths. Week 3 of the NFL wrapping up tonight with 2 games on the schedule, and the Rapid City Central girls soccer team hoping to finish the season strong. Justin will have more on the Cobblers coming up. Better, it's junior high.
No, it's high school.
Sports with Justin Wickersham.
A year ago, the Rapid City Central girls soccer team finished with a record of 11-2-1 and lost to Sioux Falls Lincoln in the state quarterfinals. But this year is a different story. Central struggled early on, but now things are looking up for the Cobblers. Rapid City Central opened the season with 2 straight losses. In fact, the Cobblers lost 4 out of their first 6 matches. However, Central has won 2 in a row and now improves to .500 on the season. If the playoffs were to start today, Central would be the 14th seed and would have to face Pierre in the first round. But with 4 matches remaining in the regular season, the Cobblers still have a chance to move up in the standings.
We are a little lower in the standings right now than we're used to be, and this is a little bit of digging out of a hole. But the way we're playing recently, I think we're all right. We need to get back into the middle of the pack so we're not having to, start out with a real tough match in a play-in game. But I like the way we're coming along, and I think our chances are still fair to get things righted.
So far, it's been going pretty good. We had a little bit of a rocky start just with having so many new little girls, but they're super sweet and their work ethic is there for it. So I think we have a good team.
And Central returns to action tomorrow night against Rapid City Stevens. Then the Cobblers will play Spearfish Sturgis and Stevens again on October 1st. Well, speaking of soccer, Spearfish and Sturgis completed a boys match that was suspended last week because of the weather, and Spearfish defeated the Scoopers by a final score of 2-1. Shifting gears to high school volleyball, Harding County defeated Hettinger Scranton in 5 sets, so the Ranchers are now 11-1 on the season. Also, Cologne knocked off St. Francis Indian for the second time this season, 3-0. Meanwhile, the Black Hills State Classic Women's Golf Tournament teed off today in Spearfish. Montana State Billings is leading the team standings after the first round with a score of 328. Black Hills State is second at 337, and South Dakota Mines is in 4th place after the first day. Individually, Aurea Tipasathian from MSU Billings has the first round lead with a 76. Katie Jorgensen from Black Hills State is second, just 3 strokes off the lead, and Kyra Allen from South Dakota Mines is currently 5th. Well, Week 3 of the NFL wrapped up tonight with 2 games on the schedule. The Buffalo Bills hosted Jacksonville in the first game. The Bills are off to a 2-0 start after defeating the Cardinals and the Dolphins. Jacksonville, on the other hand, are winless on the year after scoring just 30 points in their first 2 games. So the Jaguars were hoping to pick up their first win tonight, but the Bills, well, they had other plans. Early on in this one, James Cook runs around the outside and scores from 6 yards out, and Buffalo gets on the scoreboard first in this one. Later on now, 3rd and goal from the 6-yard line, and Josh Allen finds Dalton Kincaid in the back of the end zone for the touchdown. That made it 13-0, the Bills in control. Defensively, the Bills also had a strong performance tonight. Trevor Lawrence is picked off by Damar Hamlin, and that is Hamlin's first career interception, and the Bills take over. Then right before halftime, Allen with a 16-yard touchdown strike to Ty Johnson. Allen completed 23 of 30 passes for 263 yards and 4 touchdowns tonight, and Buffalo hammers Jacksonville by a final score of 47-10. In the other NFL game this evening, Cincinnati falls to 0-3 after losing to Washington 38-33. Jaden Daniels passed for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns for Washington. And in Major League Baseball, the Phillies clinched the National League East title for the first time since 2011 with a 6-2 win over the Cubs. Well, Caitlin Clark is having a remarkable first season in the Women's National Basketball Association. Most recently, the Indiana Fever star was chosen as the Associated Press Rookie of the Year. Clark was also named in the AP's All-WNBA First Team and the All-Rookie Team. The 22-year-old became the first rookie to record a triple-double. Clark also holds the record for most three-pointers made by a rookie in league history. Plus, she led the Fever to its first playoff appearance since 2016. However, the team lost to the Connecticut Sun in Game 1 yesterday. Clark didn't have her best game, though. She was 4 of 17 from the field and finished with just 11 points. Game 2 is scheduled for Wednesday. And that's a look at sports. We'll be right back.
Well, you got 8 new emojis coming to a smartphone or computer near you. They include an exhausted face with bags under its eyes. That's mine. And a flag for the remote island in the English Channel called Sark. There's also a root vegetable, a harp, shovel, and a purple splatter. And Brant will like this, a leafless tree that is meant to raise awareness of drought and climate change. A nonprofit that oversees global emoji standards and new releases has approved all of these. The new emojis will roll out over the next few months and throughout 2025.
I gotta be honest, I gotta admit this. I thought that tree was like a Halloween